As Jackie Chan once said,
your focus needs more focus.
But focusing is difficult. We have so many thoughts and ideas. We want to do them all and we want to do them right now. Technology exacerbates this because it gives us exactly what we want at that exact moment and allows us to do multiple things at one time. If you want to watch a video of a cat doing a backflip, then you can. If you want to watch a turtle eat a piece of lettuce, then you can. In fact, you can do both at the same time, and if you really wanted to, then you could do both of those while cooking dinner, scrolling through Twitter, and washing your pet. The problem used to be that we didn't have enough to do, but now in our world of cat videos, makeup tutorials, and Kardashians, it's difficult to find the time to do nothing, let alone sit down and focus. If one were to find the magic pill to grant them the ability to focus, then they would be an invaluable asset to the workforce today. Some people go their entire life without finding the right pill. Some people never even find a pill to take, and others don't even know that there is a pill to take in the first place. What's going on, masters? Nick here to give you the magic pill and 4 extra ingredients to give it a little kick. But before we get into that, I just wanted to say that you look stunning today. I really mean that. And you know what else would be stunning? If you pounded that like button. I mean, really show it who's boss. And if you haven't subscribed already, well, you put up a good fight, but I think it's time. But getting back to what we were talking about, there are the few that have found this magic pill and have turned into robots of mass productivity. The Elon Musk, the Sheldons, and the Sherlocks that seem to have reached a superhuman level of focus and intelligence. What is this pill, you might ask? Well, the pill is a metaphor. I mean, this one is fish oil, but the pill I'm talking about is single tasking. That's supposed to be closer. Single tasking. You've undoubtedly heard of multitasking and maybe even heard some positive things about it. But when you multitask, your brain is trying to be multiple places at once, which is the opposite of focusing. Single tasking, however, is the embodiment of focusing because you are working intentionally on one task. Now, I know this probably seems obvious, but just take a second to think about how often you spend time on just one task. I mean, whenever you drive, you're also listening to something. Whenever you're watching TV, you probably also pull out your phone and go through social media. And then whenever you eat, you probably also pull out your phone then, or you watch TV. The only time that I can really think of whenever people actually spend time on one task is whenever they're sleeping, and whenever I do that, my body tends to have other ideas. This might not seem like that much, but whenever you consistently try and work on multiple things at the same time, then it will begin to transition over to your work. You'll start trying to study multiple subjects while checking email and going through Facebook, because studying just one subject is not stimulating enough for you, and your attention span has fallen to the level of an infant. Don't feel too bad though, because I only have the attention span of a 4-year-old. Over the past year, I've been trying to improve my attention span, and I have had days where I revert back to the level of an infant. But each morning I wake up a new man, ready to improve my attention span and develop laser-like focus. As the title implies, in order to develop intense focus, you need to practice, and your prefrontal cortex is responsible for your ability to focus and regulate your impulses. So in order to better regulate your impulses, you have to give your prefrontal cortex Alright, good workout. This means sitting in silence on your way to work, focusing on your food when you eat instead of on a screen, and on your partner when they are trying to talk to you. The more that you do this throughout the day, the better you'll get at focusing, and then you can begin adding the extra ingredients. Ingredients numero uno, trigger your focus. Think about what you do whenever you wake up. You probably roll over, pick up your phone, and then go through social media or your email. Or whenever you sit down to eat, you probably then pull out your phone or turn on the TV if you hadn't already turned it on whenever you started cooking. This happens because you are triggered to whenever you set in motion the process of eating, because you have pulled out your phone so many times before whenever you sit down to eat. You can then apply this to focusing by making sure that one or two things are consistent each time you sit down to focus, because you didn't initially wake up and check your phone. I mean, back then you were an infant, so you probably didn't have a phone, but once you had a phone to wake up next to, slowly you started to check Twitter here and there, then your email, and then you did it more and more and more. So a common trigger that you will hear about is making sure that your environment is the same each and every time. And this is pretty effective if you are in control of your environment, but it can actually be harmful if it is not really up to you, because once you change your environment, then it can be very difficult to focus. Instead, do things that trigger you to focus regardless of your environment. So you could set up a ritual to do each time before you start focusing. This could be going and looking at your agenda for the day and then organizing it a little bit, then doing some deep breathing, or just giving yourself a good slap in the face. You can also listen to the same song or music each time that you focus, because that will then begin to make your brain associate that song with focusing. But because of that, you want to make sure that it's not a song that you listen to outside of a time when you're focusing, because that will then weaken the connection between that song and focusing. Ingredients numero dos is something you probably saw coming. Decrease distractions, and I've talked about this in other videos, but the best way to do this is by turning off your phone or disconnecting from the internet, but I know not everyone is able to do that, so just try and disable as many notifications as possible. And if playing games on your phone is a problem for you, then uninstall them from your phone, and if that's not enough, then throw your phone into a burning pit of lava. If coworkers tend to come up to you a lot and try to talk about their day, then tell John that you don't care about his Pokemon collection, especially when you have a major presentation that is due tomorrow. Sadly, you won't be able to get rid of all of the distractions, and you probably won't even remember most of them. And that is why you keep this beauty right here. 1 second. I wasn't prepared enough for this moment. That is why you keep this beauty right here handy. What do you mean this is just a piece of paper? This is a mystical device capable of magical things. I mean, for the sake of this video, it is just a piece of paper. But for ingredient numero tres, you want to keep this piece of paper next to you while you are working so that you can use it as a distraction dump. Anytime a distraction arises, you'll then write it down on that piece of paper so that you can, in the future, remove the distraction or reduce its effect on you. And then also, there are going to be some things that you remember that you actually need to do. So instead of going and taking a picture of your food for lunch for Instagram, you write it down so that you remember to when it's actually time for lunch. The first 3 ingredients have been about making mindfulness easier, and the 4th ingredient will actually be training your brain to focus more intensely. I talked about it in Finally Stop Procrastinating, the most powerful ingredient in the world, mindfulness, or just really any kind of meditation. But for this video, we're gonna stick with mindfulness. And I did talk about mindfulness in that video, but I didn't really talk about how it actually stops procrastination. And the mechanism for stopping procrastination and focusing intensely is actually pretty similar. For those of you that don't know, mindfulness is a form of meditation where you sit or lay and try to be aware of your thoughts or your bodily sensations while trying to remain in the present moment. Now, this doesn't really sound like much, but just take a second to try and stay in the present moment. Don't think about the past or worry about the future, because it'll probably take you about 10 seconds until you start doing one of those things. And naturally, whenever you practice mindfulness, these thoughts will arise, and eventually, sometimes you'll start thinking about whether you left the stove on or not for like 30 seconds. But eventually, you'll realize that your mind has strayed from the present moment and you'll bring it back into focus. This translates to procrastination and focusing because it helps you be more aware of your thoughts and urges. So by practicing mindfulness, it helps you to notice, or be more likely to notice, whenever you get the urge to procrastinate or your focus begins to wander, so you can then bring your mind back to the task at hand. Now, there are a bunch of other benefits of mindfulness, and I'm going to definitely be doing a video in the future, but for the purpose of this video, that is about all that is relevant. Like I said in Stop Procrastinating, if you're a beginner, then I would recommend practicing mindfulness for like 5 to 10 minutes each day using an app like Calm or Headspace, or just looking up a mindfulness video on YouTube to guide you. And once you get a little bit more into it, you don't really need a guide much anymore. And I mean, technically, even if you're a beginner, you could go to this step, but then you want to start focusing mentally on your body and the sensations that occur going up and down. And this is kind of more of a beginner technique, I would say, just because at first it will be pretty difficult to ignore the itching and the uncomfortableness that you will feel because you won't be used to sitting still. And once you get a little bit more used to sitting still, then you can bring your attention to your mind and simply just be aware of the thoughts that arise and try to clear your head. But honestly, mindfulness is a life practice, and it can really just be defined as single tasking. So as long as you are single tasking, then you are pretty much practicing mindfulness. So if sitting in your living room like Gandhi with your legs crossed isn't really for you, then as long as you're spending some time throughout the day focusing on just one task, then you're practicing mindfulness. But now that I think of it, mindfulness is really just a way to hack your brain to focus more intensely. There are a couple other ways to do that. So in the next video, I'm going to go over 5 brain hacks to boost your attention. So make sure you check that out. And if you enjoy this video, then pound that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and share this one with someone whose focus needs more focus.